Hi, welcome to Meta Minutes, your bite-sized pieces of the Metaverse. My name is Rene from Valorem Reply, and today we're going to talk about a Metaverse Quantified trend analysis. And for this, I'm honored to have not just one, but actually two expert guests today, Anja Kielmann and Steffen Huck. Hi, Anja and Steffen. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hi, Nate. Thank you for having us here. We're pretty good.
Yeah, we're happy to be here and talking a little bit about the metaverse.
Awesome. So let's start with a little bit of introduction for audience. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background as it relates to metaverse topics, but also, of course, data analytics and related things?
So maybe ladies first, I'll just get started. My name is Anja. I'm senior director here at TD Reply and also part of the trend team that we have. And so our background in the metaverse is as we look into trends, we can, of course, cannot cross the metaverse in so many fields, be it in trends, but also probably more important for us in the field of application and what it is that people actually do with the technologies that other people come up with and how they develop.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm Steffen, also senior director here at TV Reply, heading our trend and innovation offering. And yeah, I guess the metaverse is a super interesting topic to talk about. And I guess my first related experience probably was like in 2017 when we did a team day and did a little bit of a scouting tour here in Berlin and experienced the first time like a virtual showroom in the Audi concept store here in Berlin, which was quite eye-opening. Yeah. So,
Awesome. So yes, it's not so new, right? The whole kind of topic and all the building blocks and technologies, but now it's finally all coming together to build the metaverse vision. But let's talk about one of our first questions here. And I know you both worked on this so-called trend sonar report about the metaverse that is based on a very innovative trend platform, which is analyzing market signals and takes a lot of input and then digests that and comes out with some pretty good stuff. But I'm not the expert here, so please can you tell us a little bit about how does this method work and how did you apply it for the Metaverse report?
sure. So I guess to put it in a really, let's say, simple way, instead of talking, doing interviews with a few experts on new trends and technologies, we are basically listening to the publicly available expert opinions across the whole internet and having more, let's say, expert listening approach. So a lot of people might know tools that do social listening, so analyzing consumer conversations in the internet. We are doing this with our sonar platform on expert conversations and specifically analyzing online conversations of experts in expert blogs, online news sites, but we're also analyzing patent fillings as well as scientific publications. And through the millions of relevant expert opinions outside in the internet, we are actually scraping it, making it manageable, and analyzing it
Yeah.
and applying it to understand what is happening outside in the world. And in this case specifically, our experts actually talking about the metaverse.
Yeah. Gotcha. And maybe a quick follow-up question to this. How do you make sure that it's not just like white noise, if you know what I mean? Like not just, a lot of people on the internet claim they're experts, but are actually not. So how do you make sure it's only valid opinions, basically?
I mean, I would say there's two sides to it. One is, in general, let's say, filtering out the noise in terms of what kind of data sources are you actually looking at. So we have basically a curated set of English-speaking news and expert blog sites. So we're trying to avoid, let's say, the noise level by having a curated set that we're looking at. And I guess the other way is to be clear in how to, let's say, operationalize specific trends. What
Yeah.
are actually key concepts and terms used in the context of specific topics and trends to then be able to really analyze what we're looking for and reducing the noise as well.
Makes a lot of sense. So you basically do kind of pre-filtering, and it's not just scraping the whole internet. So you have some you give it direction, basically, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, and the report is pretty fantastic. And in your report, you structured all the different categories of the metaverse. And so you broke it down into a social metaverse, a commercial metaverse, and of course, an enterprise metaverse. And why did you choose that split? And what does each of these categories actually stand for?
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, as you know, the metaverse is, I would say, in the definition phase. So it's actually the first kind of challenges to kind of define it, and then also trying to understand how you can build, let's say, different clusters and sub areas that you want to look at. And I guess also when you start researching, probably one of the first kind of frameworks to think about is that you stumble upon is, let's say, the layer logic and let's say infographic from Trent Radoff. And I think this was for us also the first trigger to think about how can we actually structure the topic. And to the point why we at the end choose the social, commercial, and enterprise one is that it was pretty clear we didn't want to put the focus too much on the, let's say, building blocks and the technologies enabling the metaverse, but make it more tangible and actually looking at concrete applications and use cases. And at the end, if you look at it, I think a very straightforward way of then structuring it is to think about, first of all, what is actually happening in the metaverse from a, let's say, user perspective. Because if you think about it, you could say it's a little bit about the social metaverse is the next generation maybe of social networking, of gaming. So basically new ways of consumers interacting with each other, interaction with brands, etc. So that was the first way of trying to understand what is actually the metaverse, what does it mean for consumers, and how is it related to, let's say, specific topics like avatars, virtual assets, virtual spaces, etc. And then I guess the second way to think about it, what does it actually mean for brands, right? So we are consultants, we're thinking about it from a business perspective. And then, of course, it's pretty clear to understand what does the metaverse actually means for companies in terms of new ways of interacting with consumers, right? Because if there is basically a new channel and a new way of consumers where they interact rising, then as a brand, I also need to think about how can I leverage this to reach my consumers. And so this is pretty much then related basically to metaverse related marketing and advertising, but of course also to the, let's say, more metaverse commerce topics,
Mhm.
like from building virtual showrooms or virtual stores, but also thinking about selling, for example, virtual goods, not only physical goods. And I guess the third aspect to it, if you think about it, is what does it actually mean if consumers are immersed in these worlds? What kind of new data sources or data is actually do they generate? What does it mean from a company perspective if you have more or less, let's say, 3D data on a consumer, thinking about the digital twin in the future of the consumer? So that's, I guess, the second bucket. And then probably also super relevant for all of us, what does it actually mean in an enterprise context, right? So what is the next generation of Zoom if you're talking about virtual meetings and virtual collaborations? Or what is the next level of actually designing products and services in a, let's say, virtual and digital context where the whole development process is more interactive and digital, and also developed from a digital twin, the whole process going there till at one point you decide actually to launch a product and develop, let's say, in the physical world, up to the point of what does it mean if we have new ways of actually immersing between us also, for example, for trainings and learnings, etc. So I guess in a nutshell, yeah, that's why we choose to have these three aspects. I guess it's pretty straightforward. Everybody can understand the context of the use cases, and super interesting topics within all of these of three buckets.
Yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense, and I fully agree with also the split up and putting all of these things in it. By the way, you mentioned John Redoff. If you have not seen the Seven Layers of the Metaverse, you can watch episode 2 where I interviewed John Redoff about exactly that. So you can recap that if you have not heard about it. and then come back to this episode. But anyhow, let's continue. So, what are the key takeaways from your report, and why would you say is the time now for companies to get started in the metaverse? Although we might still be in a very early stage, and all these metaverse experiences will look way different in, like, let's say 5 to 10 years. And so, why should folks get started now? And what is the key takeaway from your report?
Yeah. Well, there are basically four key takeaways, and each of these four tells you, or should tell you in theory, not only if you read the report in detail, why companies need to prepare now or be prepared already for what's to come. First of all, what we see, and as trend research like to frame as early realities, meaning the metaverse is already here. It might not be something that exploded into your face, but we see it in so many bits and pieces that metaverse technology is being accepted, is being used, not just by a niche or tiny group of people. Gamers and enthusiasts in this region might have adapted that like years ago, but we see it spill over naturally to other groups of people, and this becoming more and more the case. One highlight I would like to make in this early realities is Generation Z, or Gen Z in short. The youngsters among us, those that grow up with these kind of technologies, were extremely eager and open to adapt new technologies, and also expect from companies, from brands, and from service providers to be able to deal in this kind of context. So Gen Z and metaverses here is something that we summarize as early realities. That brings me to the next point, what we coined as emerging culture. So, as I tried to outline before, metaverse is something that is not going to happen overnight. So, you're not going to wake up one morning and say, oh my God, look outside, there's the metaverse. No, it's more an evolution rather than an evolution, step by step development. And this development will only make a difference as adaptation and behavior is not just taken on by a group of people, but at that point when a cultural practice forms, so it becomes normal. Mm-hmm. First, maybe only in patches here and there, but more and more so. So the idea of a cultural practice that is the normal thing for big groups of people to do, that's another factor that is going to develop more and more over time. Third one is the idea of decentralization. So again, metaverse is not something that will come about and become reality because one company or one CEO wills it so, but because many actors, many stakeholders have their stake and their say and their ideas that they put into reality and develop. So decentralization is probably a key constitute of how technology works today. And this is something that we need to highlight also. Technology development or technological development coming from many directions that interact, that might contradict each other, but will create a certain momentum. Momentum is the key word after decentralization of our key takeaways, what we call momentum towards breakthrough. So even if we say it develops gradually or there's an evolution, it will be happening all at once, not just in patches that are split or completely dispersed. And these compounding effects that developments that happen at the same time will pave the way for an acceptance towards the usage of metaverse or the existence of metaverse in everyday life. And that is extremely important because that means it will spill over to the mass market. So metaverse will not be as exclusive for those using goggles or any kind of technological device that will make you look funny, but it will be something that is taken on naturally and for many people all across the world. So the momentum towards breakthrough is something that we see mounting at this very moment.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a beautiful explanation. And I really also love when you said it's basically you don't have to wear goggles, you don't have to wear a VR headset. It's device independent. And so you can take part whatever and whatever you have in your pocket, even the mobile, right? Like and that can also be part of this. But also when you said about the younger generation, right, Gen Z, for example, and they expect certain things from brands, and you know, uh, like these days, for example, think about if a company doesn't have a website, like for example, want to do a project at your house or private or professional, whatever it is, you search companies, and if that company doesn't have a website, you might likely not have it in your top favorite list of companies you're going to hire, right? Do you think the same, Anja? Do you think the same could happen in the metaverse, like for the younger generation, right? If a brand doesn't have a presence there, like could that be not so good? I guess, huh?
The answer is yes, but let me try to elaborate a little bit more. Having a presence in the metaverse can mean so many things, and it depends on whom you reach out to and what you want to achieve with that. So you don't have to have a presence in metaverse, whatever that is, or that is going to be just because, but because you want to establish a relationship to your customers. So you have to look at what do you expect from you. Do they want to buy NFTs? Do they need something in the more virtual form? Do they need presence or service offerings because they want to reach out to your brand, be that at night or be that a response or be that a personal shopper assistant? That can mean a lot of things. So brands have to be aware of the necessity to be present in the metaverse, but make a wise choice where to pick their battles or what to develop further in their existence and in their relationship to customers.
Totally. Totally. You made a very good point. It's like surely they should be present, but they have to decide carefully with their existing brand, and but also where they want to go, like what kind of offering they want to bring to, and also they gotta. It's also a chance for brands to think about a new iteration of their image, right? Like to restart certain business and so on. And so, yeah, very very good thought there.
Yeah, metaverse will be something for a luxury brand, but it will be something completely different for, let's say, a provider of vitamin supplements.
Yeah,
But the idea is the same, but of course, the consequence for the brands is completely different.
right. And analysts say, just recently I saw an article, analysts say the metaverse is a 5 trillion US dollar opportunity by 2030, right? Just imagine that 5 trillion opportunity by 2030. We will see how it turn out, right? With analysts, it's always a little bit of looking into the crystal ball. But of course, they have, like, they have, of course, data they use as a basis. And so a lot of people, what you hear is like, let's look into the broader vision. It's the new immersive internet, right? And in the beginning of the internet, it was also just for folks like me, like nerds, and a couple of people that were on the internet. And then people were saying, "Ah, it's not going to work," right? And so I think we're in this
Yeah.
phase right now. And yeah,
Yes, that's actually a good point. When we started getting our hands dirty on this project, this reminded us a lot about, or we were probably, I don't know if too young, but not that much into trend research by the time people started talking about the internet highway. They didn't know what it was. They thought it might be this way, but what they saw and what's important, and that's also a lesson for us today, there's value in it. And not just a monetary value, but probably also, some benefits might make your lives easier. And that's probably all you need to know to be able and to put some effort into going further down that road.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess if you think about when, let's say, the Web 2.0 started, right? And after initially brands managed to understand that they need to have a website and stuff like that, think about it where we are today and how long it took, let's say, to understand how actually in the Web 2.0, what does it mean for a brand actually, how to use social media, how to integrate it in the overall communication, in the offerings, in the marketing mix. I mean, you can think about that's the next evolution is to understand what does Web3 actually mean, and within Web3, the aspect of the metaverse for brands and for companies. So there will be a lot of learning passes to go, and at the end, to your point, also what to do next. I guess it's finding the balance between not doing, let's say, stupid stuff or don't risk, let's say, also reputation. But at the end, whenever there is new areas evolving, you also have to have you have to test and learn, right? So I think the crucial thing is to not yeah, you have to take some risk if you want to learn and evolve, and that's within a corporate context, of course, always, let's say, a battle between security and taking a risk, but it's crucial to do.
It's going to be
Yes.
exciting.
It is. It is definitely exciting times, and we're pioneers. And so let's build it all together, also in a responsible way that it's inclusive and in a such a way that it's inviting for everyone. Hey, anyhow, we could talk for many more hours. It was a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're already at the end of the show. Again, thank you so much, Anja and Steffen, for sharing your insights today. It was very much appreciated. We will link the report once it's out. And also, of course, check out reply.com. You can also find lots of information there. Again, thank you so much, Steffen, Anja.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Awesome. Well, and thanks everyone for joining us for yet another episode of Meta Minutes, your bite sized pieces of the metaverse. Watch our blog and follow our social media to hear all about the next episodes. And of course, visit our website to watch previous episodes. Well, and of course, stay well and see you soon in the metaverse.